You know, I was actually pre-med when I was your age and I was in college. And I really, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but I wanted to work with people. I wanted to do something that I thought would be, you know, sort of helpful to humanity. Mm-hmm. And my junior year of college, I realized while taking organic chemistry with my sister, I just wasn't that passionate about it. I'm pretty good at sciences and math, and so I could do the work. I just didn't like it. And I was taking the class with my sister who'd go on to be a surgeon. And so it was weird to take a class with someone who clearly was passionate about the material, who was passionate about science. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know what to do. I literally had no idea. When I was in middle school, I was a candy striper. And in high school, I worked at a pharmacy. I mean, everything I was doing was to go to medical school. And then all of a sudden, I didn't go. So I started working at a TV station where I could get credit for working, credit in class. And I loved it. I loved it. I mean, I was the lowest person on the totem pole, but I absolutely loved it. I loved sort of everything that came with being in journalism. I loved telling stories. I felt that I was doing a service for humanity as I kind of grew up the ranks. And I loved being able to find stories that I thought were really relevant and important that maybe other people weren't telling. So that's really what got me interested in television news. And I think what's made me stay is that it feels to me like there's so many stories that we're not talking about. So I feel like I could be working forever.
What story are you most proud of?
I think when I started reporting Hurricane Katrina, it was a really important story for me. I think I really felt that that being a reporter was a calling, that you could be very useful, that was providing a service in a way that often I think other stories you don't know that you're providing a service. Mm-hmm. So that was one. I think our Black in America series and our Latino in America series, I think that documentary series really kind of broke the mold for how to tell stories about people who are often ignored mm-hmm. in coverage in news. So I think there's a number of things that I loved. I loved doing the Today Show when I anchored the Today Show on the weekend. It just felt like you really were connected to viewers and not just doing serious news all the time, but interviewing authors about books and chefs about cooking, and it was just a fun show to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, I've had a really great career, and I've had a really great number of opportunities to try different things. So I can't exactly pick what my number one story was.
Okay. How did your experience in journalism translate to documentary making?
Really, it's the same. I think, if anything, documentaries are a luxury because you get so much more time. You get to tell people's own stories in their own words. And I think that's a real luxury. Most of the stories that I did when I worked on a newscast were about 90 seconds long, maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes if you were really lucky. So if you're doing a story in 90 seconds, you're not really hearing a long, thought-out interview. You're not really understanding what someone's mindset and point of view is. You're just getting little snippets, little sound bites. Mm-hmm. And a documentary is the opposite of that. The goal is to sit in someone's life and really understand what they're trying to tell you. So I think, it's a real blessing when you are a journalist to do documentaries. It's just a luxury.
What type of advice would you give a student who is trying to find their passion?
I think the best way to find your passion is to go out and try different things. When I started working in television news, I knew that I liked TV news, but I was a producer. So what did I want to do? I love producing, but what exactly? I used to produce a Sunday morning show. I didn't really like doing live TV producing. Mm-hmm. I like telling stories. And so the more you can hone into so this is what I like. Under this subset, I like this. Okay, what else can I try? Once I realized, what I really like to do is not just live TV, I like telling stories. Then I'd say, okay, well, maybe I'll try this kind of story. Maybe I should be a segment producer. I didn't really like doing live show producing, but I loved as an anchor telling a story in a live environment. So I think it's really about trial and error. I don't know a lot of people who could just kind of pick one thing and stick with it forever and be really passionate. I think you just have to do internships and interview people about what they do, informal interviews about, what do they do, how did they get there, and figure out everybody else's path to see what might work for you.
Who has been a mentor to you, and how did their mentorship affect your life?
Gosh, so many people, really, literally. And I think partly so many people because I'm really good at finding mentors, even in people who don't know they're mentoring me. Mm-hmm. And I think some people can be like opposite mentors. I think sometimes you see someone who is so badly behaved or such an obnoxious human being that you say, wow, so that's what that looks like. So that's what that looks like when you think you're being all tough and strong, but actually you're just freaking out and yelling at somebody. Huh, okay, I'm not doing that. I see that all the time at the airport. You know, you see some really angry person chewing out a flight attendant, and you say, oh, that really looks ugly and unattractive and not powerful. And they think they're being powerful, but I can tell they're not powerful. So I wouldn't do that. And then I think you have lots of mentors who can show you, you know, the right way to behave when things sometimes aren't even going well. Seeing somebody respond in a crisis is a really amazing way to see your mentor at work, because it's very easy to freak out and fold and, you know, fall into a heap in a puddle and cry. Sometimes I like to do that. But really, a good mentor shows you, okay, this is a challenging time. Let's sit down and try to strategize around how to come out of this challenging time. So I think it's I had a lot of formal mentors, people who knew, I think, who would say they were my mentors, but I had a lot of informal mentors, people who didn't even know they were mentoring me, who really were showing me what to do and what not to do.
What do you feel like is your greatest achievement?
You know, I don't know that I have a greatest achievement. I'm not quite 50 years old yet. I'll be 50 next year, so I hope that I have a lot of other achievements in my, you know, back pocket. I have loved being a parent. I think that's a really wonderful achievement. I've loved the career that I've had. I think that's been a pretty tremendous achievement. But I don't know, I think that, you know, probably the best thing that you can do is be helpful and useful to people in some capacity. And so I really hope that, you know, that the achievement of that, the greatest one, is still down the pike a bit.
What is the next step for you in your career?
We just started a production company about 2 years ago, and we're growing that company. We're going to start building out a docuseries unit. That'll happen at the beginning of the year. So we'll head into year 3 with a pretty robust production arm that is doing docuseries. So we've already been selling some of them, so that's been pretty exciting. And then just really continuing to grow as a CEO, continuing to run my foundation. We send girls off to college, to and through college. And continuing to try to be a best mom. My kids, my boys are, you know, when I started working at CNN, they were born. And so, you know, they're now 11. And my girls are a little bit older than that. And so, you know, juggling all of that, making it all work, I think is a pretty, without pulling your hair out, is a pretty good accomplishment.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. You bet. Thank you so much.
Great.
My pleasure. Thanks. You bet.